Hello guys, hello and good evening to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh and in this video we shall discuss the Gazette and current affairs for 6 December 2021, your daily guide to UPSC current affairs. Before we begin, a warm welcome to all of you friends after a 2-day quick break. Hi Amlan, hi Kriti, good evening Sam. Then we have Ashish, good evening Ashish, hello, hi. Hi Babani, Digvijay, good evening to you. Hi Swajal, hi Netra, good evening Supriya, hi Abhinav. How are you guys? Good to have all of you here. Amlan, take care of yourself. Anybody in the area where there is cyclone today, take care of yourself. Good evening Preeti, how are you Preeti? Alright, today we have got interesting articles all through and through. I assure you that your daily guide to UPSC current affairs is right now here. So let's begin the discussion. Today on Gazette we have three important update articles. One is about MPs, Member of Parliament. They're trying to question the government on policies in question hour, 0 hour, but the government is not allowing the questions. And just few days back, there were suspensions also from the Parliament. So we discussed the suspension issue, on what grounds are the Member of Parliament suspended. And now we will also understand what is the ground for questioning in the Parliament. We will also understand some basic details about polity. Going ahead, the second one is on the case between a corporate and farmers. This is about a case that Pepsi company, lost against the farmers. We will understand the intricate details about this. And the third one is a national strategy for blockchain, which has now been declared by MeitY, Ministry of Information Technology and Electronics and Information Technology. So these are three update articles. This day in history dedicated to the day on which Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar attained Mahaparinirvan. So today is the day he left for his heavenly abode. Feature news for day is on weaponization of trade. In specific reference to China, what is the meaning of weaponization of trade? How is trade being used to create an effect of war? Not the traditional war, but a war which is dependent on economy, finances, strategy. We will understand through many examples the issue of China, India, USA and many other countries in the adjoining region. An important update, right? Because the Australian envoy to India, he had declared this that China is possibly indulging in weaponization of trade. So we will understand complete details, intricate details related to international relations about it. Image of the day is on a kind of chewing gum. It is said to reduce COVID-19 transmission if we eat it. So that is an update. Four technical terms that we discussed today are PICA revolution, Spiel scheme. This is on endangered languages. It was present in the PIB. Another one, LEWS, early warning system for landslides, a part of PIB. And then a program to upskill the food vendors because they have been facing problems. Yes, we have known about some of the problems that they have faced in the recent past, right? So informal level of exploitation of food vendors, and that is why formalizing the whole structure. The two editorials that we discussed today are, we have two editorials today. First is on India-US economic ties, and I have covered this in details, picked up various facets from various different segments, and I will cover not only what is part of this editorial, but also what are the issues, what are the way forward, what are the kind of issues that USA always talks of with trading in India, right? So tariff king, how is India called as that? We'll understand complete trade issues with respect to US and India, and also how India is having certain protectionist measures. So important editorial. And the second one is to reopen Anganwadi to introduce an important scheme. So we'll understand these two of them. And then we have a beautiful case study on a man who is trying to reduce the social stereotypes leading to menstruation. All right. So let's start the discussion. Hello Siraj, good evening to you. All right. So before we get into the first snapshot, let me show you a quick image, right? The parliamentarians who are asking the government some specific questions, they want to look at what were the Pegasus issue. Did the government actually finance purchasing of Pegasus? If they want to analyze the government's action, can they actually do that? Yes, they have got the right to question the government, to know, at least to know what is happening, where are the spendings going. This is the right that is conferred to all the parliamentarians who have been elected or not. But the government is not allowing these questions, and that is the reason that this has come into news, right? what has come into news is how parliamentarians can question the government and on what not grounds they cannot question the government, right? So lately on this specific issue, this issue has cropped up because one of the parliamentarians, we will not get into names, so he asked a question on NRI community. When NRI community comes to India, they are harassed at the airport and they are also sent back. Is it true? Something like that was asked. And this question was, it was not taken into those questions which had to be answered in Rajya Sabha. It was removed from the list of the admitted questions by Rajya Sabha. Another question was asked by another MP on China, if China has committed any kind of incursion in Ladakh region. This question was again not paid heed to. In fact, this was not answered in the parliament. It was not accepted in the list of admitted questions because of government saying that this is a national security issue. Then in the previous sessions, monsoon session, Pegasus question was also asked if government has funded or not. And the reply was the matter is sub judice. Questions which are sub judice, which are with the judiciary, they are not to be discussed in the parliament, right? So these are the pretexts under which government does not sometimes reply to these questions. So let us understand what is the procedure under which a question can actually be asked. What are the different segments in parliament conduction of business from the morning? So let us understand this in details quickly, and this is a very interesting one. So right at the time when parliamentarians meet, what is their business? So the first, as the day begins in the parliament, the state day starts at 11 o'clock, where the important discussion is on the 0 hour. So 0 hour is the first hour of the parliament that starts at 11 o'clock, right? So they can get up a little late, they can start the day at 11 o'clock, but 11 o'clock the parliament session starts. And so first hour is reserved for the 0 hour questions. I will discuss what it is. And the second hour is called as the question hour. And after 1 p.m. then there is a short lunch, beyond which the regular function of the government and parliament continues, right? So accountability is maintained in the first 2 hours. What are those? So the 0 hour is for special reference to those questions which are of urgent importance to our country, right? So if something has happened a day prior, for example, just on the Saturday night and Sunday morning, there were killings in the northeast, right? So there were killings which could have been avoided. There were some mistakes conducted by the armed forces, and it led to the killing of around 14 persons, right? These were not terrorist persons, but they were ordinary villagers. There was some misunderstanding and killings happened. Some 7-8 people got killed, and then next day the people were also not happy. They were angry. They attacked the armed forces, and there were repeated killings. So this was in the defense. So these are urgent matters of debate, right, in the parliament. So they are accepted in the 0 hour. So people discuss on important issues in the 0 hour. The next hour is given to the questions, specific questions which are to hold the government accountable. All right. So questions, for example, Pegasus matter, on food distribution, important policies of the government, where the government can be actually questioned on how is their performance, what is the performance of the ministers or bureaucrats. So this is the second hour, that is also called as the question hour. After that, a lunch, and then regular legislative business to continue until the end of the day, and there is no time at which it ends. It might continue up to 8 o'clock, might go on till 11 o'clock at night, and they again meet at 11 a.m. right? And this is what we are speaking of, inefficiency of the parliament, where these kinds of meetings do not hold right in the regular times, and there are adjournment motions, and there are various issues because of which the parliament does not work effectively, right? So this is the regular day. Now in the second hour, which is also called as the question hour, questions are accepted as starred question and unstarred question. So maximum 175 questions can be accepted. 20 questions are starred questions. What are starred questions? Questions ahead of which an asterisk is placed, a star is placed. These are starred questions, for which a verbal reply has to be issued by the minister concerned. Verbal reply, do remember that. And for unstarred questions, a written reply has to be given by the minister concerned, right? So in starred questions where a verbal reply has to be given, a supplementary question can also be asked. Immediately a question can be asked countering the the claim that the government or the minister has made. Now in case of unstarred question, the supplementary question cannot be asked because it is a written reply. No, it has come from the ministry, it has come from the cabinet, so new question cannot be added in these questions, right? So this is what is the regular conduction of business, right? Now what questions can be accepted in starred questions or unstarred question? Let us know that, right? So as I explained, starred questions are those questions which have to be answered orally. Then we have unstarred questions. They can be answered in written itself, right? Then we have a supplementary question in starred questions. You understand the logic, no? Since it is a verbal reply, another question can be asked alongside. So these questions have come up in the exam previously, right? What are the difference between starred and unstarred question? They keep on coming. They will keep on coming as long as you keep giving examinations. So then we have short notice questions which are to be answered, for which a notice of around 10 days has to be given. This is it. And then questions on private members. Private members, who are private members? Everybody, do you understand private members? If you do, then the private members, let me explain to you very quickly. Those are those people who are not a part of the government. They can be the part of ruling party, do remember, but they are not the part of government. They are not the ministers. They are not a part of council of ministers. They're not council of ministers, dependent or independent charge. So any person who has framed a bill as a private member bill, they can be asked some questions, no, to understand. So these are additional questions which can be asked. So this is the update. Now, when the question has to be accepted by that particular house, there are some rules of their house, right? So yes, Preeti, absolutely, they cannot be a minister, that is all. So those are private members. Now, whenever the bill has to be accepted by that particular house, it simply means that it has to go through the scrutiny of rules of procedure of Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. There are times when the Rajya Sabha says that you cannot ask questions which are rhetorical in nature. Rhetoric, they cannot be satire. You cannot be having an argument in the question. For example, if there have been discrepancies in providing food to small children, right? So you cannot give some data and then after that say this is not correct. How do you answer government? So these kind of statements where we are becoming argumentative, they cannot be asked. Simple questions have to be asked, and we don't have to defame anybody in the questions. Simple questions can be asked, and the person who is putting the question, they are responsible for the facts they are putting here. Nobody else is responsible. So these are some of the scrutinies through which the question passes. Then there are additional scrutinies also. For example, in Lok Sabha, a question which has been asked before cannot be repeated, right? Then we have parliamentary committees which are scrutinizing some details, or court getting into the details of a particular issue. Those questions cannot be asked. So there are certain, these are the, we have put down these lists. This is the simple scrutiny, and this scrutiny is the one which is done by the secretariat. Secretariat means Parliament Secretariat, Rajya Sabha Secretariat or Lok Sabha Secretariat. And when it is passed through this scrutiny, then the question goes to the ministry. The ministry goes and the ministers, they are not the one who prepare the reply. The executives, the permanent executives, civil servants, IS officers who are posted there, they look for a reply, they pass it on down to the department, whichever department it is to be referred to, and then the reply comes back to the minister. Then they put this reply depending on whether it is starred or unstarred. Do you remember the difference now? If it is starred, how it is to be replied? Just put that in the comments. I will understand. If it is a starred question, how will the minister reply? Will it be verbal or will it be a written reply? So this is the way in which it is asked, right? So now certain questions have not been respected. They have not been asked. They have not been entertained by the government, by the chairperson. Also, the chairperson or the speaker has got the right to finally accept that question or not, right? So whenever any question is accepted, then there are around 50 plus ministries in the government. So when there are 5 working days for the parliament, right, it is ensured that one minister gets a chance on one of the days. So ministries are divided in such a way that in the 5 groups, so say they are divided in 5 groups, around 10 ministries each day. So one minister will get to speak once in a week, right? All right, let me see the answers. Verbal reply, absolutely. Orally, all of you. Preeti, Ashish, Bhavani, Nirga, hi, welcome. Preeti, Sam, Supriya, Nitra, all of you correct, right? So this is the importance of engaging in the conversation, because while you engage, you will always remember starred with verbal, right? So try to remember that phase. All right. So we have understood the way in which we reply to the questions in the parliament and how it is accepted or not. Do you recollect the way in which people are disqualified? Not disqualified. The word is suspended in the parliament. Disqualification and suspension are completely different concepts. So while we speak of suspension, 12 Rajya Sabha members were suspended at the beginning of the Rajya Sabha session this time, right? In the winter session. So there are various ways in which this can happen. Suspension can happen. One of the ways is in which the chairperson of the house, they can take the name of that person, right? So suppose XYZ, that is the name. They take the name of this person, they are creating repeated offenders or something, and then the Minister of Parliament Affairs, they initiate a motion so that the person is suspended for the complete session. So if it is a winter session for 20 days, for complete 20 days, they will not be present in the parliament. This is one of the ways. Another way is 1 day suspension, right? So for that particular day, if they have created some ruckus, they will not be there. They will come the next day. And the third one in some of the these are the privileges of the chairperson of the house or the speaker. So through this, the member can be suspended for 5 days, right? They can come back after 5 days. So these are the 3 ways, all right, through which some control has been put on the government, on the members of the parliament. All right, second snapshot is on the case between a corporate and farmers. Now, this kind of case can be used in agriculture in case where we are talking of people's movement, how the government is supporting, individual crop growers, farmers, as compared to the corporates, right? And about the freedom of growing those kind of seeds which are open to everybody. So let us quickly understand the case. Before that, let's look at lays, right? So these are lays in which hawa kam hoti hai. Sorry, lays kam hote hain, snacks is less, but we have got a good amount of good kind of packaging. So these are the potato chips which are in question, because these are specific variety of potato chips, right? That's crispy because of particular reason. The water contained in this kind of potato chip, these are less, right? These are 5% less than what is the usual amount of water that is contained in potato chips, right? And PepsiCo, they claim to have introduced this variety of potato in India, right? And they say that since they have introduced the variety, only they have got the right to get the production for themselves. So thousands of farmers were asked to cultivate this kind of potato under a contract, right? So only those farmers would be cultivating this potato, and they will be giving it back to this company itself, PepsiCo, so that they can create lays out of it. Now, in case any farmer defaults or wants to get into private production, then it will be legally challenged. And they were challenged. In fact, 9 farmers in Gujarat, they were sued, saying that you will be producing 1 crore rupees because you have violated the agreement, right? So let us see how has the response been. All right. So this potato variety is called as FC5. It can also be called as FL2027, right? So it has got 2 different names. And the organization, this company PepsiCo, it had placed a request under the Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmer Right Authority, right? So they had placed a request that they be given the exclusive contract. They were also given this contract. Why? Because they claim to be those people who introduced this crop variety in India. It was not existent in India. This is what they say. But there was further scrutiny, and that time they were awarded. But after they filed a case against the farmers, repeated investigations happened, and it was understood that it is very much possible that this variety did exist beforehand itself in India, right? So PepsiCo did provide some information which might not have been accurate, and therefore it was this case wasn't against the farmers, and everybody can cultivate this kind of potato, right? What is the potato we are talking of? We are talking of the potato which is called as FC5, right? So it contains 5% lesser moisture than the other kind of potato varieties. All right. So there is something called as breeder's right, and then there's something called as researcher's right, and then farmer's right. See, any farmer who is producing a crop, they have got the right to preserve the seed of that crop, and they can cultivate it again. In case in this process there is some high yielding variety also, which is, there is mixing of the farm varieties of the seeds, and then farmer by mistake they produce a newer variety, then they can also put this variety under their own rights as well, right? So they can register this variety as an extant variety. Extant means the one which has already been existing. So no corporate can take this kind of variety which has been existent in our country or which have been accidentally created. Corporates cannot take advantage of it, right? So this is the update, and It was also noted that it has put the farmers to hardship, asking them to produce 1 crore rupees, right? This is against public interest and there was discrepancies. So this case has not gone in favor of PepsiCo, right? So this can be used in ethics as well. In paper 3 as well, these are the kind of examples, right, that you can use in economy paper as well. All right. So this is the update, right? Okay. So moving on to the third snapshot, which is on National Strategy for Blockchain. This has been released by Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, and they are talking about a roadmap in which they will be implementing blockchain technology in our country, right? So there has been a slow and steady acceptance, right, after going through a very topsy-turvy process of acceptance or non-acceptance of the blockchain technology, the cryptocurrencies in India. Now it seems that we are, at the end of the tunnel. Government is revealing a national strategy on blockchain because this is a technology which can be harnessed in the coming times. There has been a declaration that blockchain could lead to creation of such startups which can be valued as much as $10 billion, right? There is a huge amount of money that is being related to creation of blockchain technology, business value. We will not get into these kind of details, right? Estimates, especially which are not very, you can talk about the number of times it can grow, right? But $176 billion and $1.3 trillion, right? So you can look at the number of times it has grown, right? Around how many times? 7 times. You can look at it like that, right? In the coming from 2025 to 30, acceptance of blockchain will be such that it will grow at the pace of 7 times in the coming in those 5 years. So what is blockchain technology about? Blockchain is about, see, block and chain, linking them through a chain. That's it. So instead of creating a central repository, these are blockchains where information will be stored. If there are information stored in the blockchain, then since they are not centralized, it does not breach all the information, right? So this is a very good advantage of blockchain technology. It can be used at multiple places. It has been already explored and a lot of exploration is happening. Education, governance, finance, right? Cyber security, media, legal, power. All the idea converges at how the government can regulate it, how the government can make the whole process such streamlined that it can tax it. It should not go against the concept of state. You understand the concept of state, no? State as a political concept, right? Where the state administers the people living inside a territory, right? A form of governance. All these things should not get hindered because of a formation of autonomous organization through blockchain technology. This is the main idea, and this technology can lead to being the foundation for 30% customer base in around the world, right? So this is why MeitY has come up with this this particular roadmap for the coming 5 years. So they say in the first year they want to have a shared infrastructure for the blockchain technology, shared infrastructure, and look at use cases. Use cases means those places where blockchain can actually be utilized. They're just looking at that. In the second year, they will start offering blockchain as a service, right, to people, and then to industry, micro, small, medium industry, startup incubation. All these things will happen, and then they'll start looking at the scalability, large scale adoption of the same, right, standardizing the technology in India, and then adopting the global standards and looking at the regulatory challenges, and then converging all the blockchain technologies, Internet of Things, everything all together, right? So this is how they're looking at it in the coming 5 years. MeitY, right? So what is blockchain? Digitally distributed ledger, right? And because of this distributed ledger system, it is very difficult to change it or hack it or cheat it. So one can try to hack one component, but what about the rest of them? So there are issues with that, and that is why this technology is prospering a bit around the world. Awareness, what are the challenges? Awareness, suitable use cases, regulatory compliances, technology adoption in the country. These are the challenges. All right, so this is the update here. Then we have this day in history dedicated to Mahaparinirvan of Mr. Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, the one who was responsible for drafting the constitution of our country. Very popular personality, accepted Buddhism towards the end of his life, and that is why we call it as Mahaparinirvan. Mahaparinirvan relates to leaving the earth, attainment of salvation. Nirvan is attainment of salvation. Mahaparinirvan relates to complete cessation, stoppage of cycle of death and birth, right? Away from sufferings and attainment of liberation, all of them together, right? So leaving the earth along with all these things. This is the day. So 1956, December 6, right? There are only few people who were a part of the government as a minister, yet they were not part of that political party in power. They were not, for example, if BJP is in power right now, they were members of Indian National Congress who were a part of BJP government as a minister. You know that? And you should tell me who are those people. A couple of people were there. Do this small research. You will like to know who are those people. All right. Then we have feature news of the day, which is on weaponization of trade. Very good article on understanding how trade and weaponization can be linked. Weaponizing of the trade. So we will understand what China is doing, how India is responding to it, what is happening with USA. There is another editorial that we are discussing very similar to weaponization of trade, right? How it can hamper the governments around. So a very good article relating to economy, international relations, all right, and peace and stability of the region. So this is the featured news, which we'll discuss shortly after the current affairs gazette discussion, right? Image of the day is on chewing gum that reduces COVID transmission. What the chewing gum does is, if we chew it, it will ensure that the proteins, they trap the coronavirus particles, and then the virus in saliva, it gets reduced, right? So this is going to promote oral hygiene, something that the chewing gums have been popular to do. It is also said that we keep chewing gum and then it also increases the brain power somehow. All right. Then we have the next one. Sam says, sir, please make a video about blockchain. Yes, we will. Yes, we will. Let the bill come up. It is just in a few days that there will be a bill presented in the parliament on cryptocurrency. We will explain the complete blockchain technology. Muhammad Azim says, sir, Mahaparinirvan or Mahaparinirvan. He left the earth. The day we leave earth, that is Mahaparinirvan. And Nirvan is the concept where the person, they achieve liberation. Liberation with the body, on the earth. See, there are various concepts of liberation. Some and various schools of philosophies. Some philosophies say that one can achieve liberation only when they leave the body only. Until the time they're on earth, they will be doing some kind of karma, and then it will have some results in some time after, after life or next birth. So these kind of concepts say that one can achieve Mahaparinirvan only when they achieve Nirvan, right? So only when they leave the body will the complete attainment of liberation be there. But there are other concepts, other philosophies which say that the karma calculation will only stop after we achieve Nirvana, and after that there will be no calculation of karma. The person will not be happy or sad. They will be completely out of the cycle of life and death after they take Mahaparinirvan. But they have achieved Nirvana. There will be complete stoppage of life and birth system, and it is only a matter of time when they want to leave earth, right? So this is the difference. Muhammad Azim says Mahaparinirvana is only used for Mahatma Buddha. No. Mahatma Buddha was one of those persons, one of those Buddhas. There were various other people who were also designated as people who would attain Mahaparinirvan. There were many other people, right? And Buddha was not the first one. Yes, he did have a different form of the way in which we can attain Nirvan. So Nirvan is the word which is used in Buddhism. Similarly, Jainism has the word called as Kevalya, right? Then various other words also used, right? Moksha is the word used in the Hindu philosophies, all right, regarding as the same thing. But yes, they are very much different from the concept of heaven. Heaven is very different from this, all right. Okay, moving ahead to terms and concept. The first term and concept for today is on upskilling the street food vendors. Just a few days back we discussed that the government is putting restrictions on people who are selling non-vegetarian food in the streets, right? We discussed that article. So can we standardize a procedure in which what should a vendor be selling on the street? What should be the hygiene criteria or standard for any kind of food being sold? Can we upskill those persons? Can we provide them a certificate on upskilling? Or if they are trained well, can we give them a recognition of prior learning, a certificate? So these are the terms that you should be using. Recognition of prior learning, mudra scheme. These are the kind of schemes, right, for the microfinancing of MSMEs, microfinancing. So you look at this, recognition of prior learning, or getting them upskilled certificates. What can be done? So we can train them on what is the food hygiene. What are the places where they can sell the food product? There are not a lot of places in the around the municipal corporation where anybody can put a stall and sell. They are not. But there are places designated. If there are places not designated, they must be designated. So there will be complete, there will be a healthy ecosystem for the street food vendors. So through this is what the government is trying to do: upskill the street food vendors. All right. So they will be able to understand what are the protocols for corona, how to use these gloves, right? How to communicate with people, right? So literacy, financial literacy, everything included here. All right. So when we talk about formalization of the informal process, or when we talk about welfare amongst people, these are the kind of measures you can use, what government is doing, right? See, why do we study what government is doing, what private is doing? Why don't we study that? We don't study because we study specifically about government because we are more curious to know about what government is doing, because this is where we have to create more efficiency when we get into the government. These are the problems that people face, right? So this is where government is focusing on, and your intention of getting into the government is revealed through interest in these things. So because once you get into the government, once you become the district development commissioner, who is an IS officer, you'll have to look at only these things, right? Or when you become the DC also, these are the things which are the challenge for the, once you become the municipal commissioner, these are the things. These are various ranks for civil servants only, mostly IS officers. Paika rebellion. Paika rebellion is a rebellion that happened in Odisha, that happened before 1857, and there was a discussion if this was the first war of independence or not. In the parliament there was a debate on this, and then they said no, this is not the one, but yet it should be introduced in the history textbooks, and that is why it was in news. So Paika rebellion happened when Britishers were exploiting the traditional people there, and the peasant militias of Gajapati rulers of Odisha, they were the one who rebelled against the Britishers here. We are talking of the year 1817. So do you remember Paika revolution from Odisha, 1817? If you would like to look at the history textbook, just go and look at it once more, because this was in news also in the parliament debates. That's it, right? From current affairs perspective and quick understanding, this is sufficient for you to understand about Paikas. All right. A couple of more things then. Bakshi Jagabandhu Vidyadhar, he was the one who was leader here, and he mobilized the leadership, and they looted the Britishers for quite a few months later. It spread, and that is why it was said that probably we can call it as first war of independence. But yes, no, not that. Spiel scheme. What is the scheme? So this is a scheme for protection and preservation of endangered languages of India. Protection and preservation of endangered languages of India comes under Ministry of Culture, right? And what are we trying to do? India has got huge diversity of languages, regional languages. In fact, it is said that every 10 kilometers we move, in any of the direction, there is a change in the dialect, change in the tone of person. And once we move a little far, there will also be a change in the language altogether. Now, in India, those languages only recognized as languages which have 10,000 or more people speaking in that particular language. So many of the languages, they are not counted as proper languages if few people are speaking. And because of this, a lot of languages have gotten extinct. A lot of government does not even have repository of many of the languages which are spoken but are spoken by fewer people. This comes as a surprise. So what are we trying to do? We are trying to preserve these languages, especially those which are spoken by fewer people, right, under this scheme. All right. So UGC, University Grants Commission, also has started to have a scheme where it wants to recognize those places where those languages which have been spoken by less people, and then create centers of excellence for developing those languages, developing the script, developing the know-how about those languages. They're starting with 117 of these languages. Now look at this beautiful image. It talks about what is the level of endangered level of a particular language, right? So safe, a language is considered safe if it is passed from one generation to other. If father is speaking the language, son also speaks, and then their child also speaks. If it is passed, safe language. Vulnerable language is the one which is spoken. Children speak, but they speak only in certain areas. They do not speak at all the places. This is a vulnerable language. Endangered language is the one where the child is no longer learning that particular language, and this mother tongue they are not using as frequently. They are not learning this mother tongue. And then we have a severely endangered language. What is it? This is the one where the grandparents were the active speakers, right? But parents understand it and they do not speak it. And then the children, of course, the intensity of understanding language, it decreases. Critically endangered language, grandparents were the last, people who would speak this. Youngest speakers were the grandparents. The children would not speak, and the upcoming generations would not speak at all. Extinct, there are no more speakers. See, so a beautiful distinction between all these languages. I remember very clearly that when I look at my development, and I don't know for what reason, I understood that my language is also important. And at my home, what we speak usually amongst my siblings and my father is English, with my mother in Hindi, but my parents do communicate in the regional language. They communicate in Bhojpuri, that's their language, but they communicate with other people in Hindi or English. So when I realized that this was the primary language, the script is Hindi, but this was the language spoken in the villages, and I would not know it. Only my grandmother would speak to me in this language, and nobody else. So I started to speak to her in the same language, Bhojpuri. I would speak in English with other people, speak in the regional Hindi language with other people, but only one person I would speak to in Bhojpuri, my grandmother. And after she passed away, there was nobody to speak to in this language, and I would speak like this only when I have to tease, the Kaisan Badu, like that. So that is the way we are trying to preserve our languages which have few speakers. But a language like Bhojpuri has got innumerable speakers, not just 1,000, 10,000, there are far many. But imagine those languages which have been recently found. There have been languages which have been found lately, of which there are hardly a few hundred speakers in the country. Those languages deserve protection, because these languages have developed over tens of thousands of years, very much possible. And now they are on the verge of extinction. So do remember this. This is a very beautiful imagery talking about the conservation of the mother tongue. Becomes very important, and people who can speak multiple languages. This is a great quality. All right. So Priya says, "Theek ba." "Theek ba" means she is all right. She is good. So guys, speak your mother tongue also. Be multilingual. Let's learn the language in which we live. All right, Ramesh says, speak once more. So we are studying landslide early warning system. हम लोग पढ़ रहे हैं landslide early warning system, right? So through Geological Survey of India, this new system has come up. What are they trying to do? They have conducted pilot projects at two places. One is in Northeast and another one in Tamil Nadu. They have conducted this pilot project to understand the level of landslide and how they can predict what's happening here. See, landslide is one of the reasons because of which there are natural disasters that can happen, and there are indicators of that. That's very interesting. There are places where landslides happen because there is increased deforestation. Uttarakhand. There are places where landslide happens because of increased flood, right? So when we have trees and those trees have been uprooted, or these trees have been deforested, cut from these places, they were holding to the roots, and they bound to the roots of that particular slopy area. And in case the trees would be removed, this complete binding of this complete soil region, it would not be bound anymore, and it will there'll be slumping, there'll be movement of this, or they can be complete landslide altogether. So this can be predicted. This is what pilot project is happening, and there are places where floods happen, then increase of this is happening. So these disasters can be really contained, right? So around 13% of India's land are vulnerable to landslides, and we are excluding the snow-covered areas. Imagine that. So that is why this project. All right. Let's get on to editorial discussion. Two of them, an important one, right? Two important editorials that we discussed today. We'll start with the need to open Anganwadis, right? So before we get into Anganwadis, let me quickly explain to you the complete process of child development very quickly. All right. So Bhojpuri is still going on. Azim says, Rawa Kaisan Bani. He says, Rawa Kaisan Bani means, how are you? With respect. Yes, Thik Bani, Hamu Thik Bani. Tu Batawa. Ajay, I am none of my cousins speaking Bhojpuri, and now I only realize that it is dying. Yeah, all the regional languages are dying. In fact, Hindi is dying. In fact, all the regional languages, all the 22 languages in the schedule, they are dying. What are we subjected to? English. What am I speaking? English. Why do we speak this? English is the language for England, no, not even Europe. There are various other languages. French is spoken in 50 countries. You know that French is the official language for many of the African countries. 50 odd countries. English is spoken in so many countries. But anyhow, can't we become multilingual? Absolutely, we can. I'm learning. I'm open to learning multiple languages. You teach me, and I'm there. All right. So people who know multiple languages, what are they called as? So when we talk of reopening Anganwadis, this is for small children, no? Small children, preschool children, 0 to 6 age. Now, before we get into these pre-age, just let us quickly understand what is there's something called as the concept of antenatal. Natal is like newborn. Antenatal, this is before birth. And then we have postnatal. In postnatal, that means there has been a birth now. There's something called as neonatal. So until 1 month of the small child, small baby born, the child is called as neonatal care. So this is up to 1 month, because the systems, the internal organ systems, they're so new to the environment that a different kind of care is required for the body. They're under intensive care, right? So neonatal. And after that, infant for up to 1 year. And then after 1 year until 5 years, they're called as child, up to 5 years. So the process of mental growth, physical growth, emotional growth, all of it coincides with their biological systems as well, right? So neonatal for 1 month, and then we have infant up to 1 year, and child for 5 years. So that is how we relate to child mortality, or infant IMR, infant mortality rate, or CMR, child mortality rate. You will be surprised to know that the proportion of deaths also increase as we increase in age. So neonatal mortality is very high, and then infant mortality is lower, and child mortality is further lower. And that is why increased care is required when the newborn is really small. This is what I wanted to share with you. Now, if you understand what is the difference between miscarriage and childbirth, I will not explain. But if you do not, just put it in the comments. I will quickly share that as well. Now, when the child grows, they need education also, right? So grooming is required, not only family, but social grooming, education grooming. So when they become 6 years of age, 3 to 6, this is the age for preschool nurturing. Preschool nurturing, where there has to be a system which talks about the child, what is their physical growth status, what is the level of nutrition. All of those are supervised, and there are various services which are given. Supplementary nutrition is given. The mother is also taken care of during these times. A lot of kind of education is given. So this is the preschool age, and as the child attains the age of 6, they start to go to schools, right? 5 plus, 6 plus, they start to go to schools, class 1. So this is a child, and then after that, from class 1 to 5 is primary education. Then class 6 to 8 is called as upper primary education, and after that secondary education. Class 9 to 12 is secondary education, and after this is the tertiary education. College is tertiary education. So right now what we have given free by the government to children is the primary and upper primary education up to the age of 14. So around age 14 is when the child is in class 8th, right? Around that time. So up to 14 is free education, and after that some services are provided by the government. Now, why are we talking about this? We are talking about this um, because we're going to discuss an editorial on the need to open Anganwadi. Now, Anganwadi are both those places in rural and urban areas both. It is not only in rural but urban areas both, where integrated child development services are provided. ICDS scheme, effective since 1975, they have been given. Under this scheme, 6 kind of services: health, education, supplementary nutrition, immunization, health checkup, referral, and health and education. All of them are provided to small children. And when they grow up, then after the age of 6, they are no longer a part of the ICDS scheme. Okay. So this is to begin with. Now, the idea of presenting this editorial is that the government wants to introduce a scheme which is on introduction of a new scheme on early childhood care, a scheme called as Early Childhood Care and Education, right? ECCE. This scheme, and this will be made necessary for all children. This is the new scheme which has to be rolled out, and that is why we need the Anganwadi centers to be open. Now, during COVID times and before COVID times also, the Anganwadi centers were not working effectively. There have been various cases in certain pockets of the country where the Anganwadi workers, AWWs, Anganwadi worker, they would go to the homes of people and educate the mother, educate the family, and these have worked very well, right? But during COVID times, this has not worked at all. During COVID times and before that, only 15% of these 3 to 6 year old children would go to Anganwadi centers, right? During COVID times, if the child was to go to these Anganwadi centers, they would not go, and this has increased the workload, unpaid workload for the women at home. Now, these are new things that you should know. So 30% of increase of load has happened because of children staying at home, unpaid work at home, increase in that, right? This is a new angle to perspective to us. So please note this, right? And since national education policy envisages complete holistic treatment, this is what has been looked at by the government also, right? So home visit helps in improving cognition, improving language, motor development, nutritional development of the person, right? The child. And only lately, just 4 or 5 days back, government has also increased the amount of remuneration to Anganwadi workers just by a couple of thousand rupees. So not adequate. We can have more number of Anganwadi workers at places. In fact, there is not even urban, seating area for the children and Anganwadi workers inside the Anganwadi center. And urban areas, the situation is even more worse, contrary to what is the popular belief that rural are the ones which are facing it. Okay, you remember. All right. So there has been a lot of comment after the regional language thing. Let's look at it quickly. All right, good to see you are smiling, guys. Jaya says polyglot. Perfect. Multilingual. Yeah, absolutely. Polyglot as well. हम ठीक बानी सर जी, आप कहवा से हाई से अच्छा बोलत बानी. ओके, केमन आछे भाल. Thank you. All right. Ashish, what is the thing? Okay, Ashish asked for me to explain the difference between stillbirth and the other one was, where are the words? Miscarriage and stillbirth. All right. So miscarriages, this is what the CDC, Center for Disease Control and Prevention of USA, it says miscarriage is for the earlier times, when the baby is very new in the womb. So up to 20 weeks of the baby being in the womb, this is called as miscarriage. If the child dies, is miscarriage. But after that, it is stillbirth, right? After that, after 20 weeks, it is considered as stillbirth. See, there is a time up to which abortion can be legally accepted, right? Because there is a point of time after which the organs start to differentiate. Before that, the cells are pluripotent cell. That means those cells can become heart as well, or lung, or liver, or eyes, anything. But after the certain growth in the small the living organism inside the womb, after the growth of a certain time, then those pluripotent cells become unipotent or only multipotent. So after that, killing that fetus will be considered illegal. But until that time, they can be aborted, right? And in case the child dies because of malnutrition, multiple issues, accidents, in 20 weeks period, it is called as miscarriage. Post that is called as stillbirth, right? So this is the update here. Okay, the second editorial is on a very important article, right? If you pay attention, a lot of things of trade imbalances around the world with India will get covered in this. What are the issues that other countries face with India? Pakistan alleges the same thing, America does it, China also speaks of multiple things like this. Let us understand this quickly, although it is quite a bit, but I will try to curtail this. But I want you to understand all aspects so that all the issues are covered. See, the advantages can be understood, right, where India is in a good position, but where India is in a bad position, that needs to be understood in a far better manner, so that we understand the shortcomings and we look at the perspective from providing valuable suggestions. So this is about way forward in USA-India economic ties. I have gone beyond the scope of this editorial, so kindly bear with me. Now, India and USA, they met. United States trade representative came to India around 10 days back, and a lot of trade ties got restored. They were not restored for quite a few years before pandemic as well. There was some issue between India and USA. We will understand that quickly. But this ties got restored between India and USA. One primary reason was China. China was the unifying factor, because post US-China tariff war, post-pandemic, everybody started to understand that China lies at the center of the global supply chain, and not only supply chain, the center of the global value chain. Imagine value chain, valuable networks also, China is at the center, right? Be it medical supplies, be it supplies, active pharmaceutical ingredients, APIs, be it chip manufacturing industry, or be it another valuable supply chain for the rare earth minerals, right? So all of them, China is at the center, and that is why these countries came together, especially the Quad, and they introduced the Quad Supply Chain Resilience Initiative. Do remember this keyword, Quad Supply Chain Resilience Initiative, one of the initiatives under which the countries say we will have our own setup for supply chain, we will not be dependent on anybody else, right? So that is why they came up together, right? Now, what is special about India and USA? See, India and USA is one of the largest trading partners for India, and vice versa as well. But there is a small difference here. While for USA, India has become one of those destinations where India exports the maximum. But while it comes to Indian American exports to India, it is not as much as Indian exports to USA. So Indian exports to USA are far more than American exports to India, right? So the difference is around in 60 to 80 billion dollars. The difference is around 40 billion dollars, right? India, is at the advantage here. But when you look at China, if this trade is around 80 to 100 billion dollars, around 80 billion dollars between India and USA, this trade is around 600 billion dollars with China, US-China trade. And there is again a negative balance of trade for USA with China, right? So around $150 is what they import. So around $450 is what China exports to USA, and $150 is what China imports from USA. Every country wants to export its services more, but USA exports only $150 and China exports $450. And imagine this amount of trade. This is humongous. Can India and America counter this? Yes, they can counter this by associating with themselves, because see, India is also a global house, powerhouse. There is a lot of internal demand. Both the countries can initiate this supply chain, and that is why they started this. But previously, India was kept on the priority watch list, special 301 report of United States Trade Representative. India was kept on a priority watch list, right? Then there was discontinuation of the trade forum. there was a discontinuation of this forum itself. India was also delisted from generalized system of preferences. Now this GSP is a system of preferences under United Nations Conference for Trade and Development, UNCTAD, and some countries, some developed countries have put many developing countries under this list, developing and underdeveloped countries, saying that the tariff for export will be decreased for these countries. So USA said no, we will not do it for India. India has been removed. This was under Donald Trump, when America was under retaliatory policies with China and later with India also. Why? Specifically because there is increased amount of export from China to USA, from India to USA, but in proportional decrease export from USA to China and India, right? So that's when Mr. Trump had also called India as tariff king. Why so? You want to import Harley Davidson to India? Very expensive, right? You want to import the Ford cars or Mustang, American cars, very expensive, 100% duty. So similarly, there are many other things where there has been a lack of access in India. Consider the milk industry, right? So there's been lack of access for milk industry in India. Now these are under specific things called as technical barriers to trade. See, there is something called as tariff barriers, tariff percentage of taxation. There are something called as non-tariff barriers, right? So phytosanitary and sanitary issues are there, human rights issues are there. In this, technical barriers are also there. We don't have those equipments which can measure the kind of milk that has been imported. There are technical barriers on these fronts. So India imposes high duty on vegetable oil, apples, corn, motorbikes, automobiles, flour, walnut, alcohols, so many products. And this is what USA has complained about. India is in the process of resolving them. Then USA is also irritated with India's e-commerce rules. See, we have Amazon, we have Walmart. Walmart has got stakes in the company Flipkart, right? Good stakes in the company Flipkart. And now we have studied quite a few times that India is preparing a list called as, we are calling it as an open source digital network, right? We have covered a complete feature on this open source digital network, and this will be competing with Amazon and Flipkart and big giants, e-commerce giants. There are various rules also which are controlling e-commerce giants. USA companies, they talk to their diplomats, and then their diplomats are not happy with India. So this is another one. Price control on medical devices. There was a news that stent, which is put in the heart surgeries, those devices, price control is happening in India. So the privates are not able to earn that much profit on them. Then lack of market access because of technical barriers. Tariff on high-end products. You want to purchase digital watches, very expensive. You want to purchase Apple phones, again very expensive. So this is why they are not happy, right? Then there are patent revocations. There are issues with the narrow patent criteria, right? The many issues like this that USA has already come up with regards to India. Now India also has got issues. India has got primary issues with movement of persons. So while USA has got these issues, India says you are restricting the H-1B visa. This is one. And then there is something called as the access to people, totalization agreement. Now this agreement is under which a person who has gone to USA to work, earning there, but they should not be paying twice taxes in America for social security and taxes in India, right? So we should not be able to pay the taxes twice. India wants to have this totalization agreement with USA as well. So this is one bone of contention from India, right? India says please restore the GSP status, generalized system of preferences with us also. USA wants to participate in India's solar energy, ethanol production, so corn, entry of corn in India, right? Pharmaceutical entry. India is not happy with pharmaceutical sector. Why? Because America time and again has some non-tariff barrier for pharmaceutical industry acceptance in America, right? They are converging on climate change issues, cyber governance as future, 5G, 6G networks. So this is what they are trying to get into now, right? Mangoes, pomegranates, there'll be more access to American mangoes and pomegranates in India. Cherries, alfalfa, grass also to India for animal feed. So this is what they are speaking about for access into each other's economy, right? So this is the update. Now through this article, what have we understood? We have understood the various issues that America and India have with each other. What is the The reason because of which these issues have been still negotiated because of coming of China. And what are the issues? Now, you should be knowing these words. Those words, there would be around 15 of these which are issues between India and USA. You should know them. Nowhere else will you be able to, get them all together at once. I read multiple articles, put them at one place so that you'll be able to get them all together, right? So take a screenshot if you want to. This is one, and this is the second one. Quickly moving to the last part of our discussion, that is on the case study of the day, which is on a person who has helped in removing some kind of taboo in the social sector initiatives related to females. While menstruation is treated as one taboo amongst females, many people do not know why it is so. And this is what was also questioned by Arun Gupta, right? He also started an NGO called as Pinkish Foundation, associated with many people, funds, and also started to distribute the menstruation products, these kits, especially the sanitary napkins, to people. And this is how he is trying to remove the stigma, right? So this is the reason that this is in news. All right. All right. That's why news. All right. So do remember the initiative, right? We are talking of the NGO Pinkish Foundation and trying to remove these kind of taboos from the society. All right. So this is the update of the case study of the day. If you want to ask any question, do put them in the comment section. And this is where we come to the conclusion of the gazette discussion. If you like this initiative, shower some love through thumbs ups and likes. We will quickly meet in the next video, which is on weaponization of trade in India and around the world because of China, right? In context of China. So thank you for watching. Bless us and keep watching, being a participant. Let me quickly see if there are some comments from you guys. Sir, other editorials aren't important. We discussed two of them. Both of them are important. Digvijay, Padhega India to Bhadega Bharat. Yes, this is very popular these days. All right. So thank you for being a part. Thank you for watching. We will meet you quickly in the next video. Thank you. Welcome Aditya. Welcome all of you. See you in the next video in a very short while. Thank you, Preeti. Thank you, Preeti. See you guys.